Hello and welcome to my channel, The Danish Readaholic. Today I'm going to be doing my wrap up. I am so tired. It's been a long week and I need to get like some type of energy because I'm going out tonight. I'm filming Friday, so I got myself some coffee, which is still really hot, but I got myself some coffee, so I'm gonna get through this and then I'm gonna go get ready. I think I'm gonna scooch a little bit to the side because I am gonna show some things over here, so there's that. Also, if you can hear some background noise, I'm really sorry. No further comment. Let's just go through the stats and then I'll talk about the books. I read 4 books in January, which is decent. I would have preferred 5. That didn't happen. My pages for January was at 1,347, which I'm not that big of a fan of. I would have preferred it to be around the 2000s, as I said in my goals. I guess Sims was a priority. Then we get into the stats, like the actual stats. I'm gonna show them a little bit differently than I did last year. I'm gonna make like a beautiful little graph, pie chart, and it's gonna be gorgeous, hopefully. Then we have the authors and whether or not they were new to me. I had 1 that was new to me author and 3 that I had read before, which makes sense because 3 out of 4 of the books were sequels. Then we get to the star rating. I had 2 3 stars, 1 4 star, and 1 5 star. And now I actually get to use one of the stats that I wanted to introduce last year, but decided not to because I didn't start doing stats until later in the year. And in order to make my end of year stats more accurate, I wanted to have the full year represented. So this stat for representation is new. So for representation, I had 1 with racial, 2 with multiple, and 1 with none. Basically, when I say that I have 1 with racial and 2 with multiple, it's because if there is only racial representation, it goes in racial. If there's, for example, racial and mental health represented, then it will go in multiple. Then we have author nationality, very, very simple, and I would have preferred this to be more diverse. We have 1 from Denmark and 3 from the US. Then we have genre, which is probably the most boring pie chart ever, and unfortunately there's 2 more like this. So this is the genre, and all of the books that I read were fantasy. Then we have the type of book, again, boring chart. All of the books that I read were series. Then we have intended audience, which it gets just a little bit more interesting. I had 1 middle grade and then I had 3 YA. Then we have the format, and I read 3 physical books and the last one was an audiobook, and I think I made the right decision there. Then we get to the sources, and I had 2 from my own TBR and 2 that were gifted. And finally, we have the release, and all of the books were released prior to 2022, which makes sense because January. All right, so with that out of the way, let me just go through the books. As I mentioned before, 3 out of 4 of these are sequels, which means that I cannot go into what the books themselves are about, and I have already talked about the first one, so I'm gonna be very brief with summaries, but I am gonna tell you more about how I feel about the books because I have some opinions on this. But first up, I'm gonna talk about the book that I think I'm gonna talk the least about, which is this one, Roselille og Blomsterkrigen by Josefine Ottesen. This is a Danish middle grade that my mom read to me when I was younger, so I guess you could technically say it's kind of a reread. I don't know. I knew the story and I knew what was gonna happen. I was really harsh on the first one that I read last year, and then I read that one for the first time. So maybe it's because of nostalgia, I'm not sure, but this one was definitely way better. I feel like the story was more well thought out and there was actually a conflict, whereas the last time there was something that happened, like a conflict, but no one really did anything to solve it, and then at the last moment our main character Roselille kind of knew what to do and then she just went and did it. Whereas this one was more, okay, we're gonna try and do this, and then it goes wrong and then they have to fix it, and then obviously they do. It's a middle grade. I'm back into loving this series as much as I did when I first discovered it, and I am excited to read the final book in the series. I just don't know when that will be. I think I'm gonna try and keep it for as long as possible because it is a shorter book, and eventually, knowing me, I'm gonna need a short book to put on my TBR. I think I gave it 3 stars because even though I really liked it, it doesn't really compare to the other middle grades that I've given like 4 or 5 stars. Then I read this. Bitch, I'm mad. I am angry at this book. Who gave you permission to fuck up all the characters. Like, what? I have no words. I'm okay, I didn't hate it as much as I make it sound. Considering that Bonecryer's Moon is one of my all-time favorites, I was so disappointed by Bonecryer's Dawn. I had also recently just read Illusionary and Incendiary. Like, I reread Incendiary and read Illusionary, and Illusionary was probably the best sequel I've ever read. So for some reason, that gave me higher hopes that this sequel would be phenomenal as well. It really wasn't. I feel like the first half, aside from ruining the characters with some strange character development that didn't make sense, all of a sudden it was like they had just changed so much and it did not make sense. Like, our main character, Elise, all of a sudden she wasn't as badass as she used to be. And Sabine, who was kind of shy and everything, I understand her more. I understand why she turned out the way she did. But it still didn't make sense to me because she was not the way that she is in this. The only person that kind of was similar to the first one was Bastian, but all of a sudden he was just so in love, and that's not an issue, but it's an issue when there's a point. Okay, this is spoilery, so if you don't want to be spoiled for this, I'm gonna put a little spoiler thing, so when that disappears, it's safe to return. So there is a point where Elise tells Bastian that it's probably better if they're not together. This dumbass is like, oh, I think I'm gonna get her flowers, then maybe she'll think it through and we'll be together again. That's not Bastian. Bastian would either be angry or he would be sad. He wouldn't go picking up flowers for her. Like, who are you? I'm angry. But aside from the characters, which was where I started before I got angry, the story is very much the same as in the first one. Like, a lot of the same things happen. We have a Faria night that goes awry. We have at least 2 Faria nights in this that goes awry in one way or the other. I'm tired of everything going like it's the same event. You did it like 3 times and you messed it up all 3 times, and nobody has ever messed it up before this. So that is why it's so unrealistic to me that they would mess it up 3 times in a row and not just pull themselves together and do it correctly. I don't know. I'm just so angry, and I could rant about this because I was so disappointed. It did pick up towards the end, which is why I actually ended up giving it 3 stars, which might be a higher rating than what you would expect from what I'm saying. There were definitely some things in here that I liked. Some of the side characters I really enjoyed. The way that some of the story evolved towards the end again was great, but the first half of the book was just not necessary. I don't know. I'm just gonna leave it at that and say this was a 3-star, and I was very disappointed. Then we have Blade of Secrets by Trisha Levenseller. This is my 5-star. I have never identified as strongly as I do with Siva. She is me. She has like social anxiety. She is very shy. She is not good at talking to people that she doesn't know, which is basically me. And she has to kind of prepare herself to enter social gatherings or to enter social environments or even just to enter a city. I just love this so much. This has like sister bonds. It has a great main character that is not just a strong badass woman who is strong all the time. She has weaknesses and she has a lot of them. And then we follow her and her sister, and that is why the great sisterly bond comes in. We also have found family, and we have an adventure, and we have plot twists, and we have evil lurking around every corner, and I'm here for it. And we have such a great romance. I wouldn't say it's completely enemies to lovers, but it's like they're not enemies. They just kind of don't like each other, but they're not enemies. Is that still enemies to lovers? What is it? Okay, but we also have that. There was so much, like so many great things in this, and it's a rather short book. So in this is the one that I feel like I can actually talk about. We follow Siva, who is a bladesmith, and she is kind of like a magical bladesmith. So whenever she finishes a weapon, she can infuse it with magic so that it can do cool stuff. Then she is commissioned to make a weapon for somebody who then turns out to have really bad intentions. And then Siva decides that she has to flee with this weapon so that she does not get it. That is like the basics and what I feel like I can say without spoiling too much. I need to win my game like ASAP so that I can buy books, so that I can pre-order the sequel for this, because I am too excited. That kind of leaves me on a question for you guys before I talk about the last book. I am probably gonna win my TBR game either next month or the month after that, and that means that I will get to go on like a book buying spree. So I need to ask if you guys would want me to buy books in my next TBR, like do like a TBR / come shopping with me. I could also do a separate video with a come shopping with me where I talk about the books, so that it would be a complete separate video, or I could just not do anything and then just show you in hauls whenever I get them. Please leave suggestions down below, otherwise I'm just gonna do what I feel like at the given point. Alright, so after having read the first 3 books on my TBR, I went into like a half reading slump, and I definitely blame my best friend because I went to her house on a Friday and then we were watching movies, we were playing The Sims, and that rekindled my love for The Sims. So I chose 2 weekends in a row to prioritize playing The Sims over reading. So I only managed to finish A Taurus Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir, which you would probably also have seen already in my TBR, where I put A Reaper at the Gates, which I was also supposed to read this month or last month. I put that on my TBR again, so that I can actually finish it. Not only did I prioritize playing The Sims over reading, but this book was really, really slow for me. I felt like Laia and Elias, which were actually some of my favorite characters in the first one, I didn't care much for Helene. I feel like they were so boring. I was so bored with their story. I was so obsessed with Helene's part in this. I was so obsessed with her character development and what she was put through that I didn't really care much for Laia and Elias. There was also this thing. If you read it, you would know. If you haven't read it, I don't think you would know what the hell I'm talking about, because it's not really anything I knew about before going into this. We have something called The Waiting Place. I did not like that at all. I know it makes sense for the story and where the story is going. I would have preferred it to go in another way, but that's just, you know, that's just how it is. So I'm kind of excited to see how I'm gonna feel about the third one, because I have a feeling that this waiting place and what we got from that is gonna play a much bigger part than what I would want. As I said, Laia and Elias, I didn't care much for what was going on, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. Another thing that I've kind of noticed, or didn't notice, but well, I did notice. Something that I kind of noticed that is not really something I should be talking about now, because it's not really about this book, it's more about the series as a whole maybe. But in this one and the first one, whenever there was a chapter that was Helene's chapter, it would say Helene, but now in the third one it says Bloodstrike. And I feel like that is very interesting because she has developed more into this character or this persona that is the Bloodstrike, and the fact that they changed her chapters to being Bloodstrike, I feel like that's very interesting. I don't know, maybe I'm going too analytical about it, but I just feel like it's interesting. No? I think that that was it for this video. Please leave a comment telling me how you think I should do the book buying thing. I could include it in my TBR as like an after the whole TBR thing. I would do this little clip where I sit and do that and order the books and buy the books. They won't get here at the same time, so I can't. If I do a separate video, it will only be the book shopping. I won't show you the books when they get here because some of them will be pre-orders, for example, sequel to Blade of Secrets, and others will probably get here fast. Some will get here something in between that, so I can't really insert clips of when they arrive, but I will show them in hauls no matter what. So it's just a question of if I should include when I buy them or just, you know, a little buying thing. Maybe not my final decisions, I don't know. But please feel free to come with suggestions down in the comments. I should have made this question when I made the TBR, but I forgot. If you like this video, please hit the like icon, and if you want to see more of my bookish content, please hit subscribe. It would just mean the world to me. And until I see you next time, bye!